The studio lights blazed, the cameras rolled, and the audience sat in breathless anticipation. On one side of the stage sat John Voit, Hollywood legend, outspoken patriot, and a man never afraid to speak the truth. Opposite him, Eric Dalton, a liberal TV host infamous for ambushing conservative guests, was ready to pounce. The night's topic? A seemingly simple discussion about Voigt's appointment as a Nollywood ambassador by President Trump. But from the moment Voit took his seat, it was clear that Dalton had other plans. Dalton smirked, tapping his cue cards. "So, John," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, "how does it feel to be Trump's puppet?" The studio fell silent. Gasps rippled through the audience. Even the cameramen exchanged nervous glances. Voit remained composed, his piercing blue eyes locked on Dalton. "Excuse me?" Dalton chuckled, straightening his tie. "Come on. Trump appoints you, Mel Gibson, and Stallone as Nollywood ambassadors. It's not about talent, it's about loyalty." Voit took a slow breath. His voice, though calm, carried undeniable steel. "I've spent decades in this industry, Eric. I've worked with the best, taken on challenging roles, and built a career through hard work. And now you reduce all of that to being a puppet just because I support a president you don't?" Dalton smirked. "I'm just stating facts. You're one of Hollywood's last Trump supporters. That's why you got the role." Voit leaned forward. "You call that facts? Here's a real fact. Nollywood is the second largest film industry in the world. Millions in Africa look up to Hollywood. Trump made a decision to bring these industries together, not for politics, not for show, but for something greater than all of us. And you want to turn it into an insult?" Dalton shifted uncomfortably. The audience hung on to every word. "Well, John, that was a touching speech," Dalton said, his smirk returning. "But let's be real. Trump gave you that title to keep you loyal, and you took it like a good little soldier." A murmur spread through the audience. Voit shook his head, his pulse steady. Then he dropped a bombshell. Turning to the audience, Voit spoke softly but with unmistakable conviction. "Let me tell you all a story." He described meeting a young Nigerian filmmaker, a woman with a dream but no funding, no connections. She worked tirelessly, saving every penny to make a film with a borrowed camera. That film changed lives. "That's what this appointment is about," Voit continued. "Not politics, not Trump. It's about dreamers like her. And yet you sit here, comfortable in your expensive suit, and mock it?" Dalton's smirk faltered. His fingers clenched the cue cards. I'm not mocking." "Yes, you are," Voit cut in, his voice rising with passion. "You call me a puppet, but the truth is, you don't care about these filmmakers. You don't care about their dreams. You just want a headline." A woman in the audience wiped away a tear. Even the cameramen seemed frozen in place. Dalton had no comeback, and the night was just beginning. The debate raged on, but Voit remained steadfast. Dalton's attempts to regain control were futile. When Dalton tried to paint Voigt's success as a result of political loyalty, Voit countered effortlessly. "Do you respect Denzel Washington?" Voit asked. "Of course," Dalton replied. "He's one of the greatest actors ever." Voit nodded. "And when he won his Oscars, did anyone say it was because of his political views?" Dalton hesitated. "No." "Exactly. But with me, it's all about politics." Silence. Dalton was visibly rattled. As the debate neared its climax, Voit delivered a final, devastating blow. "Eric, do you really believe the things you say, or are you just saying them because you're afraid?" Dalton inhaled sharply. The audience gasped. For the first time, he had no response. His hands shook as he reached for his cue cards, but they were useless now. The truth had been laid bare. Voit leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to answer me, but someday when the cameras are off, when you're alone, ask yourself, who is the real puppet here?" Dalton's face went pale. The silence was deafening. The studio, the world, everyone was watching. Then, to everyone's shock, the unthinkable happened. Tears welled in Dalton's eyes. He turned away, ashamed, but there was nowhere to hide. Millions were watching. John Voit didn't gloat. He simply waited. Dalton sucked in a breath. I, I don't know who I am anymore. A ripple of disbelief spread through the crowd. I built my career tearing people like you down, Dalton admitted. But the truth is, I've always known you were right. I was just too afraid to say it. The camera panned to Voit. His eyes held not triumph, but compassion. We've all been afraid, Voit said softly. But the truth doesn't change just because we ignore it.